Hello everyone, I'm Afaf Kanjan. Welcome to South News. We're delighted to have joining us today the permanent representative of Paraguay to the United Nations, Ambassador Jose Antonio dos Santos. So nice to meet you, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. Just from the start, give us a broad sense, Ambassador, of some of the initiatives that Paraguay is involved in with the United Nations.
Yes, well, to begin with, in order to understand our involvement in the UN, I have to tell you a little bit about our recent history. We had in Paraguay continued democracy for the last 20-25 years, elections normally, so democracy is not an issue anymore for Paraguay. When a country has democracy, also, human rights are respected, so that's not a problem for us either. So what we need to do is to develop the country in order to be able to ensure the standard of living of the population. Mainly, that's our priority. Of course, we are also involved in peacekeeping operations lately, participating everywhere in the world, especially in the region, Haiti. And also, another priority for my country is the group of LLDC's countries. Because Paraguay is a landlocked country, we share the same problems and vulnerabilities with other countries in other regions in the world. We've been honored to be elected president of the LLDC group for the years 2010-2011. So we are leading the group right now. We are participating in all the meetings at the UN. That is, landlock is an issue in all kind of meetings at the UN. We have to make sure every outcome document produced at the UN has at least contemplates the vulnerabilities of the landlocked countries, because not only many of our group members are less developed, but we also have the other vulnerability derived from the fact that we are landlocked.
And of course, climate change doesn't help with that too. So let me ask you, when you mentioned food security, I understand that in the past decade or so, not only drought, but as you mentioned, floods yes, have impacted Paraguay. What is the government doing to mitigate such concerns?
Yes, first, I have to tell you that Paraguay is mainly, its economy depends very heavily on agriculture and meat exports. So we are very dependent on export of primary products. And we don't have minings or oil, so our primary products are mainly from agriculture. About 80% of our economy depend on that. So climate change, of course, affects my country very strongly. Not only droughts, but also floodings. We've been working well in other areas, like land degradation, for example, is in Paraguay, in Brazil, invented a technique, we call it direct planting. So we don't turn over the earth after one harvest. We can do 3 harvests a year in Paraguay because of the climate. But climate is are blessed, but also a problem sometimes when you have extremes like floodings or droughts.
Ambassador, allow me for a moment to offer a slightly provocative question then in terms of agriculture. I understand that Paraguay really relies on agriculture quite a bit, particularly I believe it's soy production. But then what's happening to the forests? Most of the forests have been destroyed. So where's the balance there?
Of course, that is a problem. We don't deny it, we recognize it. We don't support the theory that a country can destroy all the forest just because it has the right to develop. We believe in sustainable development, and we have laws, regulations, and programs to promote reforestation. We are very involved in all multilateral organizations. We have laws protecting the forest. For example, you cannot develop, you have to maintain at least 30% of one single property of what we call a native forest. Not only reforestation, but native forests have to be maintained, and on top of that, you have to respect the law of reforestation as well.
How is that regulated? So, for example, maybe some locals come with a bulldozer and chains. How is that regulated by the government?
Well, there are certainly is a criminal act. If a person or a company can do that, somebody must be held responsible. They have to pay fees. They can even go to jail.
Okay. Let's cross over to something that's very directly related, and that's the Millennium Development Goals. If you can give us an understanding of where Paraguay is on target for 2015 and where it may need some more support.
Yes, we are more or less on target on every single MDGs, but we need support mainly in education and health. Those are our priorities because our understanding is a country cannot develop unless it has these basic needs covered, education and health.
And what are some of the initiatives or mechanisms that are in place or going to be in place to really help push these two very key elements?
Well, we are seeking for multilateral assistance. We need loans, we need credits to support, to build more schools, to build more hospitals, but we are very confident we'll get there by 2015.
That's good luck. I have to also ask you about investment, which is very key, I think, to Paraguay. Tell us a little bit about, give us an idea of, let's say, the tourism sector, maybe information communication technology, or maybe this evolving trend of South-South cooperation to bring in some maybe direct foreign investment.
Yes, it's a good question. Paraguay, first of all, you have to understand that Mercosur, Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay are the most important relationship we have. And that is, of course, when we talk about Mercosur, we are talking about South-South cooperation. 80% of our international trade is within Mercosur. So everything else is not really as important as Mercosur for us. There are investment opportunities for multinational companies as well, mainly in the areas of agriculture and derivative. I would call it derivative industries. Like, for example, oil is an industry derived from agriculture, palm oil, soybean oil, meat productions. We also have a tourism sector that is being developed. We have natural resources, beautiful things to show in Paraguay for tourists.
What are some of the highlights in tourism?
I would say we have the falls, of course, very near. We have ecotourism. People come to Paraguay for bear watching, for example, or fishing. Hunting is very restricted because we are protecting the environment. You mentioned at the beginning also initiatives at the UN. I forgot to mention that we have just very recently an initiative. We promoted a resolution at the General Assembly called International Day of Friendship. We were able, after 6 months negotiation, we were able to have this resolution approved by the GA. We look at this as a contribution from Paraguay to peace, because we presented to the General Assembly under item 15, Culture of Peace. In a world full of conflicts and wars, Paraguay is contributing with a resolution for friendship.
I think it's actually being held today, is that right, at the United Nations?
It's been approved already, but yes. The celebration is July 30th.
July 30th, okay.
The history behind that is that in Paraguay for more than 50 years we've been celebrating a Day of Friendship on July the 30th. And we thought it was a good idea to share this sentiment, this concept with the other countries in the world. I think the UN needs friendship and peace more than anything.
Absolutely. So let me understand. So what are some of the programs that sort of put this into place? Are there sort of communities, maybe global communities that show collaboration?
It's really it's purely community celebration. It started in a very remote town in Paraguay, very far from the capital. And a group of friends created the idea of celebrating a Day of Friendship, related to peace, of course. And they started to celebrate at the local, this very small local community at first, and then it expanded in the whole country. And then we, of course, we've been celebrating it for more than 50 years. It's been approved by a presidential decree a long time ago. So every July 30th, what we do is friends exchange small gifts, just something significant, like it can be also a letter, just as a token of appreciation to other people. And in schools, for example, students exchange small letters, selecting a friend a student doesn't know from the beginning. So you put all the names in one bowl, and you pick up a piece of paper, and that's your what we call invisible friend. And on July the 30th, then you reveal to your invisible friend who you really are.
That's wonderful. Talk about building bridges. Right. Wonderful. I think Paraguay also just celebrated the National Day of Paraguay, right?
Yes, it was on May 15th. Yes, it was 200 years of independence of Paraguay. By the way, it's an important celebration for us. We've been independent for 200 years. What we need to understand about Paraguay is that our independence was relatively peaceful, because we didn't have to fight a war with Spain to become independent, and it's been a long struggle for Paraguay. We had international wars to consolidate our autonomy, our independence, but in the end we are here after 200 years.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a question on the upcoming Rio+20 conference, the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development. What is Paraguay's involvement, and what would the country and yourself like to see come out of that conference?
Of course, we are going to send a high-level delegation to the conference. We already did in the previous one, and our goal is to consolidate our position, which is a common ground in Mercosur, among the Mercosur countries. We will stress the point that we have the right to develop, same as the developed world, but we will respect nature. But in turn, there are negotiations at the OMC as well in Geneva about trade, for example. We need to make whatever we negotiate in Rio+20 is closely related to the international trade. We need the developed world to lift all the barriers to trade. We don't need any more subsidies from the north. So what the South needs is really an honest and fair international trade. Mm-hmm. And if they give us the right to develop through a fair international trade, there won't be any problems in respecting nature for us.
Absolutely, which is exactly at the Istanbul LDC conference. Yes. We just came back from. That's exactly what these LDC countries were pressing for: trade, more market share, really development, partnership, and I think that's what we saw. Exactly. My final question to you, Ambassador dos Santos, is a personal one. What is your greatest challenge as an advocate for Paraguay at the United Nations for your country?
My greatest challenge, Paraguay obviously is a small country, 6 million people only. There are more cows and horses. I'm used to say this in Paraguay. 3 times more cows and horses than people. It's a small country. It's only 6 million, the size of maybe California. So for our country, my goal is to make sure a small country like Paraguay stays visible in the UN among 192 countries. Good representation and honest and decent, but also humble.
Absolutely. I feel honored learning more about Paraguay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here on South South News. I'm Afaf Kanja. We'll see you soon.